the mic or you can hear me? The mic? Okay, perfect. Lihle? Good evening, colleagues. I know we have amazing people here. We've got our HODs, some of our HODs. We also have our brilliant junior medical students sitting there, as well as our registrars. These are our potential and future leaders, and our teachers, Professor Kasim, Dr. Patel. I'm sure everyone knows Prof. Kasim. And of course, we've got our guest here, who will be introduced properly by Prof. Ngama, and we've got Prof. Ngama, our DVC. So colleagues, it is really my pleasure this evening to announce to you and talk to you about the event that we're having this evening, which is celebrating our School of Clinical Medicine, UKZN alumni. These are individuals who have contributed immensely in extraordinary ways in terms of research or humanities, and their contribution to our communities in South Africa and globally. There's been, just to give you a background to this process, we've always felt that it is only when our colleagues pass on during their funerals that we get to hear the amazing things that they have done. And I felt that it cannot be right, because these individuals, it's actually natural and human to feel good when we are validated, as well as acknowledge the great and immense contributions that our UKZN School of Clinical Medicine alumni have contributed, hence the birth of this platform today. I have amazing people that are lined up, but none other than Dr. Imnia Suleiman, who felt he is the one who should be the inaugural person who has been nominated. It's a very transparent process. It's democratic and it is fair. There's a committee that looks at the nominations. We ensure that the people that are acknowledged and celebrated deserve that kind of title. So it's totally transparent and fair. So colleagues, I'm just mentioning a few of our colleagues who have passed on, who've done amazing work, but we did not have the opportunity to congratulate and celebrate them. These are individuals like Professor Madiba, Professor Pizzo, Professor Philpott, who actually innovated the pathogram that you guys are using now in ONG. Professor Mayosi, that you all know, he was one of our alumni. Professor Padfin, Professor Gathram, Professor Kalichuram was one of the first female deans in the medical school. Professor Bejak, some of you will know, these are people who died and we never had an opportunity to say, wow, you've been an inspiration to us, you've been a great leader, and we salute you. And of course, people like Professor Sakin and Dr. Crystal. I cannot mention all of them, but these are some of the individuals who we are very proud to have UKZN been associated with. So I'm now going to hand over to Professor Ngama, our DVC, who is going to welcome our special guest here, who is very busy, but there is not one moment when I call him that he will not pick up my call or even return it for that matter. So I thank you, Dr. Imtiaz. Prof. Ngama, over to you. Kindly introduce our guests. So those who are live streaming this, please on YouTube and online, please send comments, post on the chats, and let us know how you feel about this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Dlova. Well done on this idea. I remember speaking to you after when we had COVID, and suddenly we saw all these esteemed alumni passing away. And she then came up with this idea that honestly we should be honoring people while they are still alive. We shouldn't be waiting until there's a funeral and then we suddenly remember them. Thank you, Prof. It's a welcome. Esteemed colleagues, deans of schools and portfolios, heads of disciplines, members of our UKZN community, UKZN alumni, students, media houses, I greet you all and good evening. Most of you know me. I'm Professor Busincama, the Deputy Vice Chancellor and Head of the College of Health Sciences here at UKZN. Today, really, it's not just an ordinary day. It's a very special day in our history as the university, the College of Health Sciences, and specifically the medical school. We are here to honor and appreciate a legend in the medical space, a giant of humanity and a devoted alumnus who has dedicated his whole life to change people's lives for the better. Dr. Imnia Suleiman, good evening, and thank you so much for taking your time out. We know you have a very busy schedule, but thanks for coming and joining us this evening. The School of Clinical Medicine, under the leadership of Professor Dlova, who is the Dean and Head of School, like I said, initiated this series of alumni awards and honoring of our medical alumni legends at UKZN. The idea is to honor these esteemed legends while they are still alive. This is our inaugural one. It's the first one, and we are really honored to be honoring someone that I remember many years ago. You know, now when I was looking, it was actually 1994 when I saw this hospital being loaded in a ship, and I can't even remember where it was going, and I was looking at the TV and I was thinking, I didn't know in South Africa we could do this. I am very happy that today we have young doctors and students who can learn from such experiences and be inspired, because that's the intention, that we should not be, we have all these people in our midst, but we always miss out on the opportunity to inspire our younger people. So Dr. Imnia Suleiman, I'm just going to introduce him, although he doesn't need any introduction. He was born in Potchefstroom in the Northwest Province. He matriculated at Sastre College in Durban in 1978 and qualified as a medical doctor at the University of Natal Medical School in 1984. Dr. Suleiman commenced his private practice at Pietermaritzburg in 1986 and terminated it in 1994 to concentrate fully on the Gift of the Givers Foundation, which he founded on August 6, 1992. Dr. Suleiman developed the Gift of the Givers into one of the world's most respectable humanitarian organizations. It's the largest disaster response agency of African origin on the African continent. And he has implemented and delivered over 21 different categories of projects. And in the 24-year history, he has delivered over 1.4 billion rand aid to millions of people over 41 countries, South Africa being included. For him, I felt that there's no work that is small enough or big enough. When there's no water, you see him there in Makanda. When it's a big thing in Syria, you see him there. So I think that is what really makes him so special. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe the best among people are those who benefit mankind. We strongly believe that we can learn a lot from Dr. Suleiman and many other esteemed alumni of ours. As the Zulu saying goes, indlela ibuza kwabaphambili. With those words, I welcome you all and thank you so much for coming. Thank you very much, Dr. Suleiman, for gracing us with your presence. Over to you, Nongcebo.
Is it audible? Okay, now it is. Thank you very much, Professor Ngama, and thank you very much, Professor Dlova. It's really a pleasure to be here and be part of this program of honoring UKZN alumni. And it's a real pleasure and an honor to be speaking to you, Dr. Suleiman. I was very curious when I read in your profile that you're from Potchefstroom. How did you find yourself in KZN?
Well, I was born in Potchefstroom and in my early life, my mother and father got separated.
Oh, okay.
My mother moved back to Durban. She was from Durban.
Oh, she's from Durban. Okay.
Yes, and then at some point that day, Standard 7, in 1974, I came to Durban to continue studying, to be with my mother and study in Durban.
Okay.
And also because I'd already decided I wanted to do medicine at an early age, And I said, it'll be easier staying in Durban. I never know the opportunity of getting into medical school may just be easier.
Oh, okay.
So, and I moved to 74 for 2 reasons. One is to be with my mother.
Okay.
And secondly, for the chance of getting into medical school in Durban.
I'm always amazed when people say whether they wanted to be a musician or whether they wanted to be a doctor or whatever it is that they wanted to be. They say, I knew at 5 years old, or I knew at 10 years old, or I knew at 15 years old that this is what I wanted to do. How did it come to you? How did you know? And how did you just feel it in you that this is what you want to do? You want to be a doctor?
Well, the person who inspired me is actually from this medical school.
Oh, okay.
Right. People know he passed on recently. Professor Ismail Hafaji. He was a pediatric endocrinologist, if I'm not mistaken. But he was the GP in Potchefstroom. He actually delivered me.
Oh.
Right.
In more ways than one.
Yes, yes. And, he was a family doctor, and, that was real committed medicine. Saturday, Sunday, after hours, this man would be available, come with a smile, no mood, no issue was a problem for him to come and see to you. But there was another aspect to him. He was also a person who had memorized the Holy Quran by heart. So in Ramadan, when we have to pray in the mosque, we need somebody to lead us. And this man used to be the spiritual leader in Ramadan to read the Quran by heart in the prayer. And in the day, and other times, he was the physical healer as a doctor. So when I looked at him and I saw that his skill and his commitment and his dedication, I said, I want to be like this man, but 50%. I can do the physical part, not the spiritual part. And he then moved on to Durban. He carried on studying here. He became a pediatrician. He became a professor, an endocrinologist, and he served at this university. And he just passed on, I think, about a month ago.
Oh.
Right? And he was a glaring example of somebody who was absolutely committed. People loved him. Students loved him. Everybody around him loved him. He just had that kind of personality. Very soft-spoken, doesn't say much, doesn't expect anything, no airs about him. And he comes from a family that taught those kind of values.
It sounds like the spiritual grounding or the religious grounding is very important for you.
It's vital. The spiritual grounding is absolutely critical because life is determined by that. Let's take the present situation. The world has made tremendous advances in science, in technology, in medicine. When the fax machine first came out, we thought, how is it possible? You put a paper in here and it comes out in another part of the world. And then the cell phones came. And then the big planes came. And the Airbus came. And all other types of technology came. And man had made all types of weapons and development in so many different things. And you see the advancement and the evolution of man from a materialistic and a scientific point of view. But all that achievement, we can't live with each other. There's friction, there's discord, there's greed, there's selfishness, there's power craziness, and people want to consume the issues of this world without caring for fellow being. So what advances have we really made? We made advances, yes, from a physical and material point of view. But from a spiritual point of view, which is the essence of humanity, we have failed in that department. And that's why you have the crisis and chaos all over the world in all kinds of issues. And that's why, to me, 3 things I've been saying for the last 3 to 4 weeks. We need to return to spirituality, morality, and ethics. That's what this country needs, and that's what the continent needs, and that's what the world needs.
I like how you emphasize the spirituality aspect of it, because a lot of friction and a lot of the lack of tolerance that we see is based on the religion.
Yes.
Whereas if we focused more on the spirituality, the outcomes might be different.
Yes, spirituality is not restricted to any religion. It's beyond religion. Even those who don't have, say they don't believe. It's about the goodness of human being. It encompasses everything that is good within a human being. It doesn't matter what religion the human being belongs to. And it's there to enhance the goodness. My spiritual teacher, if we come to that, how a gift of the givers was formed, always told me, look for the good in any soul. Whether people perceive the person to be bad, but in every bad there is good. So when you see a good in a soul, emphasize the good. And it said the law of the universe is this, that as you keep emphasizing the good starts climbing inside the soul of that person, and the bad starts going down. And eventually you will see the good override the bad, and the bad person eventually becomes a good person. And you've seen that transformation happen in the world to so many different people. I've witnessed it physically among friends and people in my community and society, and those that I've loved of. How many people are prisoners? And they say, I did this, that, and the other. I committed all this type of crimes. I've now written to Jesus. I've written to God. I've written to some kind of stuff. And I want to transform my life. I want to change the lives of children. It's not something that's not intangible. It's something very, very visible. It's experienced. It's lived. And that comes by promoting good all the time.
It's hard, though, don't you think? It's hard because when you look at South Africa and you look at the challenges that and you see some scary things where you intervene and you deliver help and you deliver aid, and you look at some of the things that we faced with as a country. And I remember there was an author I spoke to a long time ago, more than 10 years ago, and we were speaking about the concept of Ubuntu. And one of the things that they said was, it's amazing how much, as Africans of any color or creed, we preach Ubuntu and we say that's our uniting factor. But some of the most atrocious things we do to each other. So yes, we talk about spirituality and we talk about seeing the good, and then you look at the bad and you look at how people are suffering and you look at how they act out on that suffering. Does it makes you doubt that you can actually dig out the good in a person?
Not necessarily, no. You see, it's like anything that you say, there is a percentage, right? You guys, you'll say this community, or you'll say people were bad. We see the incidents in Africa. But what is emphasized is the bad part of Africa, not the good part of Africa. What is emphasized is the rotten behavior put in the community. The good people are not emphasized. Like, for example, I was speaking to the media recently, both to the Editors Forum and to a group of journalists that I was in Cape Town with last week. And I said the problem with us is, you say government is bad. But is everybody in government bad? And the answer is no. There's good and there's bad. You'll say, let's take, I'd rather quote from my own religion. You say, this is a bad Muslim. Islam is bad. But why is he a bad Muslim? It's because he's moved away from the teachings of Islam. That's what's made him a bad Muslim. There's nothing wrong with the religion. There's something wrong with the behavior of the person, which you need to correct. You will say lawyers are involved in robbing that child may get sick in 5 days' time or 7 days' time, or has already got the illness and may get bad in the next 7 to 10 days. But they were prepared to sacrifice that child of theirs so the neighbor's child or somebody else's child could live. That was the Ubuntu. It was of life of their own child. When we gave out food parcels, again, there were thousands of people. So a food parcel that was allocated for one person, we split it 3 ways. And when the people took it and went out, they reached a point where it was going to finish. And it did finish. And you thought, are we going to have a riot here now? All the people did is, they just put their heads down, they turned around, and with absolute dignity, they walked out of there. And people stopped them on the outside. And they said, look, we know the food parcel is short. But from my packet, you can have 1 cup rice. The other one said you can have 1 cup sugar. The other said you can have 1 cup flour. And they shared that little that was available among those that didn't get, knowing that within 4 or 5 days, that whole family is going to be out of food, and there's famine and people have been dying. This is only one incident of what happens in Africa. For Somalia, you know, a place called Orange Farm in Johannesburg.
Yes.
It's a very poor area. Kids got no shoes, no jersey, no uniform, no knapsack, no lunchbox, no lunch, no. They come to school in that hard situation. It's ice cold winter. We're doing a campaign for Somalia where thousands of kids are dying per day, also because of famine. The children of Orange Farm raise 40,000 rand. Not some expensive luxury school in South Africa.
How did they do that?
Ubuntu. You want the answer? Ubuntu, spirituality, commitment, and valuing the life of a human being somewhere else. I'm in Cape Town doing a collection. Professor Nkama asked. The hospital went to a place called Bosnia. We're in the mosque. The imam imam is the priest, puts the cloth down on the floor. The guys come and throw 5 rand, 10 rand, 50 rand, 100 rand. One guy comes in his jeans, takes out a 10 rand that's folded, opens it, throws it on the floor. He walks away. The imam calls me. He said, that man lost his job 3 weeks ago. What he gave you was probably the last 10 rand in his house. He gave this to you. Now do you understand the responsibility that we have to look after money like this? That we have to make sure that everything given to us is used. It's a hell of a weight to carry. Children from Orange Farm, people from Mitchell's Plain, and people throughout the country. But, coming back to your question, this is Ubuntu in action.
You mentioned that when the mothers would come and bring their children to you, and on your signal, on your thumbs up, they believed that their child was fine. Does it scare you the amount of trust that people place in you, that when gift of the givers arrives, there's a solution. When gift of the givers arrives, there's light. When gift of the givers arrives, there's food, there's water, there's salvation.
The only difference is that in those countries, they don't do gift of the givers.
Mm-hmm.
They take it on pure trust.
Exactly.
Yeah,
trust.
but in South Africa, yes. South Africa, it's fine. If I tell them there's a pink color horse coming from over the mountain, they'll say maybe there's two coming. That's the kind of thing in South Africa. But overseas, when you go, it just shows there's something in the demeanor, and that is correct. The type of teams that are drawn to us are totally spiritual people. And when they behave, I'll give you some examples. When we go and serve, people can see this in them. Again, in Somalia, they came to us and said, "What kind of people are you?" And I said, "Why?" They said, "This is the first kind of medical people we've seen that shows so much of love to the people that they treat. They don't stand far from them. They touch them. They wipe their nose. They hug them. They kiss them." All pre-COVID, of course. You know, and they do all that kind of stuff. And they said, there is something about the way you guys do stuff. And by the way, all those people have come either from UKZN or from the medical schools in our country. So our medical schools in our country give us professionalism. They give us quality people. They give us people with Ubuntu and give us people with spirituality. And this is what those people who don't know us see in us. They read the soul. And when you do this, in their heart they know we are fine. Because when they see our people work and the way we do it with such love and dignity and look after them, they have total trust in you, which takes us as a message to all these medical students here and all the registrars and all the medical schools, that when you're in that ward, you're not dealing with a number, chart number 4725. You are dealing with people in a hospital who have emotions and have feelings, who need to be counted as people, and we need to respect them because they have total trust and faith in us. We cannot let them down. We cannot be slapdash. We cannot do half a job. We need to be the best at what we do because it could be us on the other side.
Yeah.
And the human dignity is something that cannot be compromised. And this is a lesson that all our medical schools and all centers of learning in this country, be it medical school or not, we need to have those values of commitment, sincerity, dedication, professionalism, and of course, human care.
So you have won, or rather, not won, you've been honored with many awards and honorary doctorates and presidential awards. You've lobbied government. You've had budget allocations. That's how much your work is respected, that the then Minister of Finance allocated budget to assist the work of the gift of the givers. And I remember it was a few months ago, well, it feels like a few months, it could have been towards the end of 2020. And your turnaround time is, I don't know how you do it. Literally something will be reported, we'll hear about it in the news, and then gift of the givers sort of like, comes down on a cloud within a few days and makes it happen. And somebody posted on social media and said, "Why don't you just give this country to gift of the givers to run?"
Well, that has happened many, many times, you know what? And of course, it all goes down to the type of people that work with us. The teams are super, committed. They're dedicated. They know this industry. We're doing this for 29 years. I'm doing this for 31 years. So, so the teams that we come, again, I told you, it's like they handpick and send to us. It's not somebody we choose. They come to us. Same like the medical teams that come. They all have a spiritual component in them. So yes, we're efficient. We know what we do, what to do. Everybody knows the system. And it's simple. I gave them a simple instruction. I said, if your child or your wife or your mother's on the other side, what will you do and how fast will you do it? I don't have to say anything else. They know exactly what to do because this is how they respond to their own children. And they get very emotional. And I tell them, you guys got to practice emotional distancing. We have social distancing and physical distancing, but I tell them, you guys got to practice emotional distancing. You cannot get attached to the people or the person. Otherwise, that's going to cause a problem.
How though? Because you are going there to, when you are going to help somebody in a drought-stricken country, there's famine, there's war, there's all of, what is pulling you to help is the feeling in your heart and the recognition of human dignity and the recognition of the human that is going through this. Not just a number, not there's 20,000 people needing aid, but 20,000 souls, people, living, breathing beings. You've got to think of that when you're thinking about going to help, but when you get there, you've got to shut it down. How does that happen?
It's simple. Attach yourself to the situation. not the people. Say, I'm going to KwaMashu. I'm not helping Linda Buthelezi or Mr. Zondi or Mr. whatever, anybody else. We are going to help the people of KwaMashu. We're going to Syria, we're going to Niger, we're going to Palestine, we're going to Haiti, we're going to the situation. And before we go up front, you have to have clear parameters. We can't help 250,000 people. That's the reality. The reality is that many are going to die. The reality is you're not going to save everybody. The reality is that you can only save somebody.
How do you feel, though, when you can't save everyone?
It's something that we have blocked out a long time ago. Because it's realistic. We know we can't do that. When you go there, what keeps us going is the fact that we did save somebody. In Niger, we saved every single child that we saw in that triage. In other areas we went, we saved thousands of lives. And our teams focus on it. In spite of me telling you this, sometimes they do get attached to a small child or to a lady or to an old man. It does happen. And then we have people within the group. When they see those people, they can see counselor written on the forehead. And they start talking, and then they make jokes, and they unwind, and the teams understand each other. So they discuss, and they sort of have a relaxed kind of situation to take it off. But we've decided now that in future, when we have complicated missions, and all missions when it comes to disasters like that are complicated, you should take in trauma counselors, but not for the victims.
Oh,
But for the team. For the team.
Okay.
Because in the initial stages, nobody's interested in counseling. They don't want to know, like, have you got a problem? Can you talk to me? They're not interested. Where's my house? Where's my child? What's going to happen to my job? When I'm going to eat? What I'm going to do next? Can you see the state of my country? They're not interested in individual counseling. It's a waste of time. It's not going to work. Nobody's interested in that. But your teams that are focused, they can be debriefed because we do that without trauma counselors. And the time has come where we have to add them onto the missions when we go again.
So the perception globally is South Africa, obviously in Africa, and the perception about Africa, dark continent, poverty, the images that are spread across the world are not of, the excellence that exists in the pockets that it does exist in the greater continent and in South Africa. So how are you received when you go into other countries that are not in Africa? Because you are an international aid organization, and you go to other countries and don't they think, why are we getting help from Africa?
Yes, very good question. I'll give you a couple examples of that. We've got a few hours here tonight. The first one was when I was in Malawi, many years ago, in the 90s. I met the Malawi ambassador to the United Nations. He said he's retired now. But he said, I need to tell you a story. He said, many years ago, there was a conference in Europe. And there were not many African delegates who went to that conference. And he said, after 3 days of the conference, me and me meaning the guy, and the other African delegates realized that the word Africa was not used once. Neither was an African country mentioned once in the discussion. So on the final night, when it was a goodbye dinner, they asked the convener of the conference, can you please tell us the reason why Africa was not mentioned, or the name of a country in Africa was not mentioned? And he said, you know what the guy told me? Africa is not relevant. When we got to Pakistan in 2005 in the earthquake.
Didn't that hurt?
Of course that hurt. And that's why we said, when we took the hospital that we saw that we designed in South Africa, this was a world first, a product of African technology taken to Europe, and it saved the lives of thousands of people inside Bosnia. When we got to Pakistan, northern country teams arrived there at the airport, at the hospital that we walked into. It's a long story, but I'll give you the summary. We walked to the hospital, and they couldn't understand first, like who we were, because they saw Indians, they saw blacks, they saw whites, they saw Afrikaner. The Chinese, they all look the same. Now, all the South Africans all looking different. They can't understand this. Where are you guys from? We said South Africa. He looked at us, black, white, Indian from South Africa. Part of the African continent was black. And they looked at us. Then the lights went on for them. Oh, Africa, what did you guys come to fetch? You guys always come with a begging bowl. Always want things for free. All your continent is so messed up.
Isn't there a part of you that at that moment wants to just pack up and go and be like, cool?
No, I know. Action speaks louder than words. I told him, you'll eat your words. The hospital was shutting down. We spoke to the Pakistani general. We said, give us these items on the list, and we will show you what a South African team can do in a situation like this. In 24 hours, a hospital that was shutting down to get earthquake victims, we converted it into a 400-bed emergency hospital. and did 75 operations a day, for which the Pakistan president gave us the presidential award in 2006. And those same teams who had a big mouth had to use the same facilities that we set up in that hospital.
A big mouth. I love that. A big mouth. But how do you do that? You are incredibly efficient. It's almost like you get the news of the crisis before everybody else, and you somehow just.
Some people say we create the crisis. Well, I think to understand this, we need to go back a little bit. It's because the organization is totally spiritual. And the understanding of this is very, very important. I have an advantage. Because of spirituality, a lot of things are laid out for you. So I need you to understand this and everybody here to understand this very, very carefully. In '86, when I moved to Maritzburg, at the same time, an Afrikaner guy from Pretoria moved to Maritzburg. And he came to teach French in UKZN in Maritzburg. And my butchered neighbor told me that this guy is here from Pretoria and he needs a doctor. So we meet, we discuss, and then he tells me of a spiritual teacher he met in America. He was on a scholarship there. And he said the spiritual teacher passed on in '85, but there's a chain, the new one takes over. The new one is in Istanbul. He's always from Istanbul. The one from America came to run a visit to America. So he said, you need to see the guy. So I started laughing. I said, Miller, it's '86. I haven't been to Cape Town yet. When am I going to get to Istanbul? And he said something very important. He said, what God wills happens. There's a time and a place. 1991, August, the visit took place. I'm not going into the details. I met a spiritual teacher. Now we need to understand the context. A man comes from Pretoria, sees somebody in America, meets me as a doctor, tells me about a guy in Turkey. I land up in Turkey. I walk into the place. It's few months post-Gulf War. Gulf War had polarized civilizations. Samuel Huntington then spoke of the clash of civilizations. It was a perception that Christians and Jews were against Muslims. The West was against the East. And coming from an apartheid past didn't help at all. And I come into a situation like this, and I see people from all religions, all countries, all continents, Jews, Christians, Muslims, Hindus, those who say we don't believe in a Muslim holy place. And I'm totally confused. I can't understand this. The spiritual teacher looks at me for the first time in his life, doesn't ask me, where do you come from? How is your trip? Where you stay in Istanbul? Do you like the country? Is it nice here? His first question to me is, what do you see? He read my soul. I told him I'm confused. He said, yes, but what do you see? I said, I see people of different cultures, religions, groups, in a Muslim holy place. He says, yeah, you see right. Mankind is one single nation. The God of all mankind is one. We just call him by different names. He said, any imam, priest, sheikh, rabbi, pandit who promotes violence, extremism, terrorism is not a man of God. Don't follow him. Anyone who promotes love, kindness, compassion, and mercy is a man of God. Follow him. I go to South Africa, the yearnings to come back. I come back, and this is how everything changed. 6 August 1992, Thursday night in the place, they have a zikr. In a Sufi order, they have a zikr, is a celebration of God's names. So in all the scriptures, we will say, God, the one and only, kind, compassionate, merciful, knowing, seeing, cherisher, sustain, and nourisher, and all those things. So they chant the words. At 10 p.m., he's sitting in the corner of the room, I'm sitting in the corner of the room, and he makes eye contact, and he looks heavenwards at the same time. And he says in fluent Turkish, and I don't speak a word of Turkish, but I understood every single word that he said. Spirituality. He says, my son, I'm not asking you. I'm instructing you to form an organization. The name in Arabic will be Waqful Waqifin. Translated, gift of the givers. You will serve all people of all races, of all religions, all colors, all classes, all cultures, of any geographical location and of any political affiliation. But you will serve them unconditionally. You will expect nothing in return, not even a thank you. In fact, in what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life, expect to get a kick up your back. If you don't get a kick up your back, regard it as a bonus. Serve people with love, kindness, compassion, and mercy. And remember, the dignity of man is foremost. If somebody is down at the ground, don't push them. Hold them. Elevate them. Caress the head of an orphan. Wipe the tear of a grieving child. Say words of good counsel to a widow. These things are free. They don't cost anything. Clothe the naked, feed the hungry, provide water to the thirsty, and in everything that you do, be the best at what you do. Not because of ego, but because you're dealing with human life, human emotion, and human dignity. This is an instruction for you for the rest of your life. And remember, my son, that whatever you do is done through you and not by you.
Those are powerful words.
And then I said, how come when you speak Turkish I understand, and others speak Turkish I don't understand? He said, my son, when the hearts connect and the souls connect, the words become understandable. I told him, what do you mean by all this instruction you gave me? I'm a doctor in private practice. I have 3 surgeries in a place called Pietermaritzburg in South Africa. He told me one line, you will know. For 29 years, I do know what to do, when to do, how to do, what not to do. To answer your question, it's all spiritual. Everything is guided. We know exactly what to do, when to intervene, when not to intervene, and it's all laid out for us all the time.
How did it feel to let the surgeries go? Because to build a surgery is no easy feat. To gain your reputation as a doctor, the respect, all of it that goes with it, the investment in it, and to then accept the calling, which is spiritual, but then there's the physical, the tangible letting go of it. What was it? How was it?
It was again a spiritual decision. I was out of the country. My wife just phones me on the 30th of June of 1994 and says, I'm shutting the surgeries down. She said, every day I tell the people you're coming tomorrow, and they come back with a patient. They don't want to see the locums. They don't want anybody else. They don't want to go to another doctor. Every day. How long I'm going to keep telling them? Because you don't even know when you're coming back. Tomorrow, next week. I said somebody's going to die in the surgery. And you're going to be doing this work, looks like, for you, because already I started in August 92. My first mission was August 92. The moment I walked out of that place, my first mission was to Bosnia a week later. That was the direction. That when I left out of there, the inspiration came, respond to the civil war in Bosnia. And I knew the question was answered. I will know. Gift of the Givers was going to be a disaster intervention organization. And everything else that we do, the 21 projects that I've spoken about in the introduction, are built around disasters. So I kept on moving. I went to Bosnia 5 times already. And it was easy to make the decision because the spiritual teacher said, this is an instruction for you for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. You can't do 2 professional jobs. Either I do my private practice or I do Gift of the Givers. It was an easy decision. Mm-hmm. The person who found it the most difficult was my father. He said, you took so long to study, 7 years, and now you're to be a specialist. Do you know what you're doing? I said, yes. Mm-hmm. Several years later, he said, I compliment you. I wish I had the faith that you had. You did the right thing in your life. And before he passed on in 2016, he told me again, you did the right thing in 1992.
So you said your spiritual teacher said, serve these people unconditionally. What is unconditional serving?
You don't expect anything in return. You don't want to know, you don't want to go there, oh, they must know me, I'm Dr. Suleiman, I came, I brought something for them. They must remember my name and call me everywhere and phone me and say, hello, you're such a good guy. It's not about that. Mm-hmm. It's about going, not even wanting to know who the people are. You don't treat them like 4372 case file. Mm-hmm. You treat them as a human being, but you don't make them feel obligated to you. So you know what? Because that's about dignity. So when you give them something, you don't want them to say, okay, I got to say thank you to this guy. Mm-hmm. You put it in such a way, and that's another thing. People tell me, and media travel with my teams, and they say the dignity with which you guys give out a food parcel or give out a hygiene pack or how you deliver the water is just incredible. Mm-hmm. You guys expect nothing in return. And the people who receive the stuff actually become our friends. Although we don't become very close to them, we have to keep the emotional distancing. Mm-hmm. But it's done in a way where they don't feel obligated at all. And let me give you a classical example about that, without meaning it in a negative way. Afrikaner farmers are very proud people, but not in a pride sense, right? They won't take stuff from anybody. Mm-hmm. In the last year or so, look, we've been helping them since 2017. We've drilling balls in Sutherland, we've put in fodder, we've saved sheep, we've taken food parcels for the farm workers. And from last year, and in the last few weeks, and today, it's Warren, I'll come to that. But they came and they said, look, you guys have been giving food parcels to farm workers. Do you mind bringing food parcels to us and our families? We don't have any more food to eat. Our credit cards are maxed. Our bank overdraft is maximum. We got no more stock. We can't pay the bonds anymore. We took all our kids out of university. We took them out of private school. We got this thousands and thousands and thousands of hectares of land. There's no use. There's no water. There's a drought that's not going away. All our animals have died. We can't even feed our animals. Just see how they're dropping dead. And the guy today, we took food parcels for the hotel workers and the hospitality industry in Oudtshoorn today. We gave them out to all those people. And a big Afrikaner farmer runs to the truck and says, can I get a food parcel? The farmers are hungry. Our animals are dying. The sheep count in Sutherland dropped from 440,000 to 31,000 in January this year. We are now turning that around. We put in the balls, we gave the fodder, we are now supplying in fortified pellets, like you have fortified nutritional food for adults. We're doing the same thing for animals. And the count is starting to turn around. And people said, Afrikaner farmers said, not only will we take the food parcel, we'll even take a picture for social media to show other people in our situation there's no harm in taking the food parcel. It's the same thing that happens in Niger. The people have trust in you, they respect you, they feel you protecting their dignity, and they willingly, on their own accord, come forward to take the picture to be put on social media.
So how do you navigate the governmental relations, the intergovernmental relations? Because to go from, I'm not sure how international aid works, but I would presume there needs to be some negotiation. You can't just go into Pakistan, you can't just go into Bosnia, you can't just go into Malawi and say, we're the gift of the givers, we're from South Africa, but hey, never mind where we come from, we're just here to do what we're here to do. There has to be some managing of the relations, and I'm sure that becomes quite a critical part. How do you manage that?
Absolutely vital. To respond, the call has to come from the head of state, not to us, but an international call. I'm the president of this country.
They call you?
No, not to us specifically.
As in
They make an announcement worldwide that we want teams worldwide to come and respond to us. Quite a few times Mozambique said that crisis, we don't want anybody. You can't impose yourself on a country that wants to help itself. From 2004, after the tsunami hit India and the Andaman Islands were completely washed away, the Indian government said we don't want any help. And they've been saying that persistently since 2004.
So even if you can see whatever's is in the news, like the Mozambican floods and all of that, not the Mozambican floods, the floods in Mozambique, if there is no call to help,
we will not respond.
You cannot.
You can. If you're imposing yourself somebody that doesn't want you, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
You're depriving the person or the country of taking care of itself. You're taking away the self-sustainability, the feeling of self-esteem, that kind of stuff. But the moment a call is made, but there's some that you know what, they're going to call, they're going to make this announcement in the next 2 hours. It's because it's too massive, like the tsunami, the earthquake in Haiti, the typhoon in Philippines, the earthquake in Nepal. You know they're going to make the announcement very soon. Immediately, we get hold of DIRCO. We have a relationship with DIRCO, and then we form the embassy of that country in our country, and DIRCO, our embassy speaks to the government in that country. The relations are made, and all the teams are arranged, and it's all processed, and we come to receive you. But let's take another classical example, Nepal. All arrangements are made. We get to Nepal, and the Nepalese government says, the health department says, that no non-Nepalese doctor can work in any Nepalese government hospital. Your medical mission is dead even before it starts. Your search and rescue teams can go in the mountains. But we were a little bit ahead of them. We took in Nepalese doctors who work in South Africa, who live in South Africa, and we took South African doctors who worked in Nepal. And we took South African doctors from South Africa and took them across, and we said, okay, we're a mixed bag. Now, we know your rules. Can you allow us to work on one of your patients in your hospital under the supervision of your health ministry and your medical specialists? If you're not happy, we go back home. If you're happy, you open your hospitals to us. They said, deal. South African trained doctors went into the hospital, and not even halfway through the operation, they said, all government hospitals in Nepal are open to only one team in the world, gift of the givers from South Africa. And we want another favor, can you take our doctors and train them in your country? It's diplomacy. It's more about winning trust. Let's turn the situation around. Massive earthquake hits Durban. People come from all over the world. Is our government going to allow any team from anywhere just to walk into the hospital and do what they want? Because something comes wrong, besides the normal litigation, we've got new litigation issues. And we've seen how teams operate in Haiti, where people have died in what they've done. People have bled to death. Foreign teams from first world countries. If you went to the Catholic Church, where our paramedics went, and they said, okay, they cleaned the floor, they cleaned the wall, they cleaned everything. And they said, okay, bring. They brought the kids. The teams who came before us from first world countries operated the kids and they didn't do the amputations properly. So the kid's hand was chopped, we now had to chop the elbow.
Oof.
The ankle was chopped, we had to chop above the knee. Where's the ethics? Where's the morality?
Yeah.
And our teams that day broke. Big size people broke down emotionally. They couldn't take it anymore. Because there wasn't one child. There were hundreds like that. And then you tell a child, now go home, and the child tell you, go home where?
Oof.
There's no house. There's no building. There's no parents. There's no grandparents. Where do I go?
Oof.
There's nowhere to go. There's no food. There's no water. They're shooting in the streets. There's riots. All kinds of things. You're in a classical situation. And where do you go? You're living in a real situation. This is not in a theater, in a five-star theater, when you come in all nice and gowned up, and the patient, you don't even see his face. You just get to the heart, you start operating. You're seeing the circumstances, what's happening inside the world, and you've got to deal with that.
I was about to ask that, in as much as you've got to create the emotional distance, the reality is that you are human,
Yes.
and you are going to be touched by the human condition. You talked about the trauma counseling and that, but how do you deal with that? How do you deal with knowing that this is the state that the world is in?
Because your teams have been doing this for years, and you've got a core team that keeps coming with you. And they're the first ones to close their practices and give up their patients and close everything and leave at sudden short notice from the hospital, government, and from private. And they want to come. And it's the same team that wants to come over and over and over again. And one of you guys, yes, Harun Patel, the head of Department of Urology, he's one of our team members. He comes with us all the time. And at times, I told you, it doesn't always work. The one in Haiti that was early. It was 2010. We were still evolving as an organization. We hadn't had teams before. Up till 2004, it was only food, blankets, tents, medicines, that kind of stuff. 2004 was the first time we took a primary health care team to Hafun, in the northeast of Somalia, where the tsunami hit that place also. 2005 August was Niger primary health care team. 2005 October, Pakistan primary health care team, trauma team, post-op rehab. 2009 Gaza, trauma counselors in addition to all the above. 2010 for the first time we had our own search and rescue team, and we created a world first. Never before in the history of the African continent or in the history of the world has any team in Africa taken anybody out of the rubble alive in an earthquake outside the African continent. We were the first team that did it. 20th January 2010, 64-year-old Enazizi collapsed inside the Catholic church. Rubble on top of her. No food, no oxygen, no water, no medicine, fractured hip. 8 days after the earthquake, our teams pulled out alive from the rubble. We're evolving as a team all over. And those are still the early days. So emotional attachments were there. And Emma comes out and says, her first words to my team is, I love God Almighty. You instilled hope in somebody thousands of kilometers away. And the second thing she says, I love you. That's an emotional attachment, And it created that kind of issue. And that's why you have to keep briefing the team. When you go, please don't get attached. So don't follow on social media. Don't get attached. Oh, such a nice child. This is happening to the mother, the father. See the difficulty they're going. But human beings, as they are being human beings, they still will become attached. And then some of them pay the price for that. And we have to debrief and speak to them. And they come home and they need counseling. But doctors are macho. They don't need counseling. They're fine. But COVID has changed all that. You've seen the healthcare professionals need counseling like never before in the history of this country. Yes, it's changed. You follow the chats and they'll tell you who's offering counseling, who's offering mental health care, support. We want to do mindfulness. We want to do this, that, It's never happened before in this country. And that's besides, healthcare workers asking it, what about SEPs, the teachers, the orphans, the people who've lost jobs, lost family members? It's big. And a message to the university. Don't take 24 students in psychology masters, 8 counseling, 8 clinical, and 8 educational. We've got 300 people apply for the job. We only take 24. It's time to open up all the universities and start training psychologists. There's a huge need in this country. There's job creation. It's a vital, effective service. The deans of the hospitals of the universities need to get together and change that concept. We need hundreds of psychologists in this country.
What's amazing for me is how you can recall the date, the month, the year. Who is your doctor? I need the prescription for the memory supplements that you are taking. I'm sitting here in awe of how, because we attach memory to emotional significance.
Yes.
We attach it to it being a significant event that resonates with us. And obviously for you, every mission that you go on is significant. But the fact that you can remember all of them, you can remember the age of the people, 31 years. But you can remember a 64-year-old in a church. You can remember it.
Because those things touch your life. And you love it. It's not from some textbook, in some office, in some remote place. Not academic stuff and research stuff. This is practical reality. We live it on the ground. My teams will tell you, not only me, my teams will tell you what they saw in which place, in which rural area of South Africa, and what happened, and who said what, and in which area, and in which village. Because they've seen the people speak. And it's etched in your memory for the rest of your life. And it's those incidents that drive you all the time to say, look, we saw this here. Next time we need to prepare for this. And we assimilate that information to strengthen the organization, to strengthen the teams. We have discussions within the teams. We get them all together. Everybody shares their stories and the experience. We have a chat group. Everybody mentions their things and they speak to each other. And the experience is shared. It goes around all the time.
Somebody said, again, on social media, said it's amazing the work that people do in the individual capacities, in the organizations that they serve and the organizations that serve others to mitigate the suffering that people are going through. And it's to be applauded, and it is really, really selfless and great. But it is testament to the extent of government failure.
There's a yes and a no to that. In South Africa specifically, well, government can't be controlled, can't be held responsible for an earthquake or for a typhoon, or a hurricane. They can't be held responsible for that. They can't be held responsible for COVID. What they can be held responsible for is the way they respond to the disaster. Now, in a normal situation in a country like ours, the taxes of 6 or 7 million people can't take care of 60 million people in a non-disaster situation. In a normal functioning of society, 7 million people's taxes can't take care of 60 million people. It is then what government can play a role is ethics, management, no corruption, no wasting money, getting the maximum value for every 1 rand, you get 200 rand of value. They can be held responsible for that. But they can't be held responsible for not able to take care of the needs of everyone, because it's not possible no matter what the government is. It doesn't matter. The most ethical, put all a group of religious people to run the country. You send a group of spiritual people to run the country. They're going to have the same challenges. The money is not enough to run the country under normal circumstances. Where the difference is how you manage that money in a way of integrity, and it's supported by other things. Are you being ripped off by suppliers? Are you being ripped off by the corporate sector? It's a balance of spirituality, different factors, so, in the group. And everybody is responsible. So government needs to be supported by civil society organizations, by the professionals, by the corporate South Africa, and everybody has to do this together in a very ethical, balanced way. Because in certain circumstances, like in this country, it's not going to be possible if we had no calamities and no disasters and no corruption and nothing. We're still not going to manage because the population is growing fast, the needs are fast, the difficulty is fast, and we can't create so many jobs. That's the reality. People say, go get a degree. How many people with a degree are walking in the streets today? There's no jobs. And in the COVID itself, people who are affluent, who had houses, cars, kids in private school, have now become recipients of food parcels. They lost everything overnight. And companies, we have unethical companies, use this as an opportunity, let's cash up and just close the company down after 40 or 50 years and put 1,200 people and their families in the street. So it again comes back to what I said in the beginning. Spirituality, morality, and ethics. This is what this country needs and what the whole world needs.
What is your daily spiritual practice?
Prayer. I'm a Muslim. I'm instructed to pray 5 times a day. Sometimes I take a shortcut.
Where
but
do you find the time? I've been looking at your phones, and there are 3 phones, and that's testament to how often you need to be reached.
Yes.
So now how do you, because a lot of us walk around saying, oh, I'm so busy, I don't have time, I'm this, I'm that. And you're praying 5 times a day, and I think you are busier than everyone in this room.
When you pray, depends on your level of your spirituality. When you pray, things open up for you. There's challenges, and it's a time that gives you peace of mind. It gives you calmness. You can reflect. You can think. And prayer is vital. And service is prayer. God Almighty tells you, I'm not in need of your physical prayer of bowing and standing in front of me if you cannot help fellow man or fellow human being. That prayer, if it does not direct you to serve people, is a useless prayer to me. So that prayer is part of service to humanity. And service to humanity is actually the actual prayer. So it's a balance of the physical action of saying all the words and praying, and then manifesting it in practical action and doing what we do.
when you talk about taking shortcuts, I'm going to relay a very brief story. My mother is a preacher. She's, ever since I was this high, she's been very active in the church, and even when she changed denominations, she changed and, went to learn, their processes and did all that. And I am not born again, as in a born again Christian, but I am a believer. I've got a very sincere and deep relationship with God, very spiritual. But my mother has always had one gripe. She says, I've never seen you on your knees pray. And I say, well, I could be sitting here and praying. I could be having this conversation and have a quick 1-minute prayer, or I could be in the shower, I could be at the robot, I could be doing anything. I don't think there's a dedicated time for prayer. So when you say shortcut, because I go back to what we spoke about earlier about religion and how it causes tensions, because we believe based on our religions that things should be done in such and such a way. And so if you are of this religion and you do that, but we are another religion and we do that differently, yours doesn't sound quite right to us, because we believe in exercising it, in manifesting it into the physical realm in a certain way. So when you say shortcut, what is shortcut?
No, that is like, if there's 5 prayers, I'm doing 4 prayers.
Oh, doing 4 prayers. Because I
don't tell that to the imams.
But I don't even know what the protocol is.
No, there is
pray.
no set. It's about doing good. You can't judge any religion. The teachers say you can't judge anybody. Everybody knows his own way of prayer. God has made us diverse. The paths lead to the same God. But it's not the same path. That's why you have so many different types of flowers, so many different types of insects, so many different types of fish, so many different types of animals, so many different types of trees. God is showing you his diversity in creation and in the human being. And in that diversity, he's showing you different ways of prayer and different ways of means of ascent to him. But the core values are the same. It's simple. Do good. That's the essence of the entire creation. Do good. And it's open-ended. Whichever way it means to do good, just do it and avoid the evil and avoid the bad. So it is not prescriptive. You cannot say that somebody else is doing it wrong and I'm doing it right. That's being judgmental. You don't understand the people's concept. Everybody is doing the good in their own way. That's why God's first message to us, actions are but by intentions. You don't understand the person's actions because you don't know the intention. I can go to a bar and say, oh, what's he doing at the bar? He's going to drink. I may be going to the bar to teach somebody some guidance and take them out of the bar. But how are you going to know that? You're not going to know that. So that's why you can't judge anybody. You have to, and the teaching is, a man is so busy looking at his own faults, he doesn't have time to look at the faults of another person. And that's the spiritual teaching.
We're going to take some questions from the floor. I think there's a roving mic that's making its way around. If anybody's got any questions for Dr. Suleiman, just by raising your hand and the microphone will be passed around. And if you can just introduce yourself and ask your question.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's Mohammed Hussein here, medical student. And thank you, Prof. Glover, for the invite. Dr. Suleiman, I'm so inspired by you and your work. In particular, when in Turkey, you were hand-selected by this Sufi master to actually come back and to do the work for the people, you know. And then I wonder, and I'm curious, how do you get the funding for all the projects that you do? Because I'm currently doing a grant application with Prof. Glover for our research project, and it's 50 pages. So do you do these applications that are so long, you know? It's just out of curiosity. And my second question is, how can we as the youth be involved in your work voluntarily? How can we join your organization? Because just last week, I was speaking to the Cancer Foundation of South Africa. It was at the Albert Luthuli Hospital. They need assistance for the cancer-affected kids. Food parcels, food hampers. And so I wonder, can we as the youth partner with your organization to do all of these tasks? And on a lighter note, my sister here says she wants to go to Syria. So I'm thinking if you... Yeah. Thank you so much.
The first question is, we don't look for money. The spiritual teacher said you will never look for money. We don't have fundraisers. We don't call people. We don't make proposals. We don't ask anybody. We don't phone anybody. People come in queues to provide funding to us. In terms of the long reports, the only report that we give is a report back to corporates what we did with their money. And now they approach us first and they offer us the money. But you've got to fill in a form with certain details which is for transparency, which is quite normal. And the rules are quite standard. So corporates is a new phenomenon. It was ordinary people, Orange Farm, old people, schools, business people, small groups. It always came from there first. Corporates is a new phenomenon. And it also comes from them. And now even international agencies or international governments, not governments, international businesses are calling us. So we've never looked for money, both in terms of cash and goods in kind. It comes and as a need, God sends it somewhere along the line. In terms of volunteers, we don't have any volunteers as such. All my staff are full-time paid. Because we have a volunteer, I'm coming Monday morning, 9 o'clock I'm going to be there. But 8:30, the cat ran away. And I got to look for the cat. I know we're disaster specialists. We can't waste time. So the people are all full-time staff, except the teams that travel all over the world. They are medical professionals, search and rescue teams, paramedics, trauma counselors. They call upon them when we need them, and they stop everything and they come with us. That question of how to bring volunteers in is a difficult situation. But it has worked on a few occasions. In Naisna, when the fire came, and ShopRite gave us a car park in which to run our operations, the people of Naisna then became our staff. We had managers, and they all come and say, okay, in this line, pack in this way, put things this way, and they all brought their buckets, and they loaded and distributed it. Students got involved in the UCT fire. 4,000 volunteers turned up. And we could only take a few hundred in the Old Mutual Hall, so they worked under our teams, and they all took their cars, and within a few short space of time, they used their own buckets, and we delivered to 4,000 students in 37 hotels, staying in 37 hotels in Cape Town 3 times a day. And during July unrest, because people were hungry, we needed to get food fast to the people. Now, we're very particular about making the parcel ourselves, putting it in our own truck, taking it to area ourselves, distributing it ourselves. At that situation, when people are hungry, we had to change the system. We worked with people we knew and said, you can bring your own trucks, always send the food to you in bulk. You can form it up. This one has to go inside there. Everybody gets the same thing. And your volunteers can take it to whichever areas you want to go to, which you think the need is in your area. That was a crisis that required instant response. So those are the situations. The other volunteers was the COVID-19 facility we set up in Lens. None of those doctors have been part of our medical team. It was a whole group of new doctors. But in the day they were working in the normal practice, and after hours, and in the day checking on the COVID facility that was set up in Lens. We provided the funding, they gave the 24-hour care. And they were a team that was not associated with us at all, but they became part of us in the service that they provided, which was practical and efficient. So yes, there are situations in which it can be done, but it's a case-by-case situation. In terms of going to Syria, first study well, be a good doctor, qualify, finish, and we'll talk in 7 years' time.
We've got another question.
Okay. Hi, Dr. Suleiman. My name is Nita. I'm a medical student. So I have like 2 questions. So the first question would be, how did you balance religious and moral beliefs with being a doctor and also running your organization? I mean, you go to different countries, they all have their different beliefs, and how do you put that in line with what you feel is right, or you feel like, okay, maybe they're not doing it okay? For instance, abortion, some religions will say, no, that's a sin, you know, so there's different acceptance in that. And I also wanted to know that as a young soon to become a doctor, like I would like to also open a non-profit organization, but I'm a bit terrified, and I would like to know what advice would you like have for me in terms of what's crucial and what's the main thing I should look at. Thank you.
In terms of people's own behavior, we are not accountable for that, and we're not there to judge. Religion doesn't tell us help person, but the person must not steal, must not lie, must not do an abortion, must not do anything. That's why the word unconditionally comes in. You help people, it's irrespective of what they do or they don't do. That's not your business. God says that's my business. Your business, I've sent you to help people. Doesn't matter whether they follow your system or don't follow your system or believe in your way or don't believe in your way. That is not your problem. Your job is to deliver unconditionally and forget all those things. That's got nothing to do with you. So that's why we had no issue, and that's why our teams are so mixed. Catholics, Anglican, Hindu, Jew, Tamil, Muslim, they're all mixed, and even people don't believe they're part of the team because they all have that philosophy. In terms of in medical practice and NGO practice, it's the same belief. It's the same system. It's about service. It's about spirituality. It's not, you can't be a spiritual, non-spiritual religious person in your practice and be different in your organization. You're the same person. The personality and the character is the same. So you are the same type of person in both institutions or both circumstances. In terms of forming your own NGO, you first got to study the market, what's required. Is there somebody else in the same space? Are they doing something similar to you? Isn't it better to join somebody who's already doing that kind of stuff before you take something on? If you take something on, who's going to support you? Who's going to give you the backup? Are you going to start with your own money? How are you going to approach? Are you going to have a marketing plan? And are you going to be transparent? And yes, whatever you want to start off, don't have big dreams. I'm going to serve 5,000 people today. Say, I'm going to serve 5 people today. Do it well, get the testimony, get the pictures. The support for 10 people will come. Gift of the givers is not now like what you were 29 years ago. It took a long, long time to build it to where we are today. It started very, very small.
Have you ever thought this is too much? Have you ever thought, just even for a fleeting second, thought, what have I done?
Well, first of all, it's not my organization. It was instructed to me, so it's a spiritual thing. Secondly, on every visit, the teacher told me it will get much bigger. And thirdly, I'm a guy that likes challenge. So in 2019, for the first time in our history, we responded to 3 disasters simultaneously. Cyclone Idai in Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and in Malawi. And we had the floods in KZN at the same time. And we did the floods in KZN at the same time. We're all up to Port Shepstone and parts of the South Coast were all affected, and Central Durban. So we did those 3 countries. We sent different teams to all those countries, and we did the local. And in addition to all the normal things that we normally do. Our role is that if we respond to a disaster, the other projects that we normally run every day in every country of the world cannot suffer.
We've got another question. If you can please, I'm not sure if you are in the line of vision, but maybe if you could stand up so we could see.
No.
No, it's...
Hi, Dr. Suleiman. I'm Nosihle Gumed. I'm a psychiatry registrar. Thank you so much for being a global ambassador for Africa and South Africa and all the work that you've done. So my question is basically, obviously with the mental health care aspects of things being my focus of interest, how do you balance your home life and all the work that you have to do? Because I'm sure you're quite busy, and in all the countries that you travel to and everything that you need to do, I'm sure it's quite a big thing and a difficult thing to sort of gauge everything and sort of have a good balance. So how do you go about doing that? And thank you for the good work that you've done. And I love the fact that you speak about spirituality, because I think in the work that you do, you probably wouldn't be as far as you are right now if you weren't so grounded in your spirituality. So even with us, I think a lot of that, we realize that in wherever we go in life, we need to have some sort of spiritual basis in order for us to progress and go far and make a change in the country and the world as a whole. So fundamentally, thank you for being what you are to the country and especially to UKZN. But I'm just curious about the home-work balance. How do you do that in everything that you do? Thank you.
One answer. It's totally imbalanced. The spiritual teacher told me, from the first he smiled. He said, you're going to have 1/3 for yourself, 1/3 for your family, and 1/3 for the work. And every time I met him, I said, teacher, this system is not working. 3/4 of the stuff is gone to my work. 4/3 are gone to the work. I said, it's not working. So he kept on smiling. I said, look, the good thing is my family understands what I do. They are part of it, and they see the need. And yes, I try to take them for holiday now and then, but they know. I find relaxation very stressful. I can't relax. I'm a guy that works 24/7, but I try to do the balance. That's the first part. So no, the balance is completely messed up. It can't work. The other thing is, I'm very happy that as a psychiatrist, you're talking about spirituality. Because it was very materialistic, teachings in the past. There was no God in psychiatry. There was no spirituality in psychiatry. Everything was based on imbalance and balance of chemicals and dopamine and, all the other receptors in the brain. No balance and no attribute to a spiritual being. And a lot of people are affected because of spirituality. And if that's the thinking with yourself and your friends and this profession, then we're going a long way. Because the part of healing, you can't do healing because spirituality is an essence of the human soul. The body's got a physical being and a soul. So spirituality is part of that soul. That soul needs to be nurtured. In psychiatry, you can't avoid dealing with the soul, which means spirituality. So that's the way we're going. I think we're going to see a lot of healing. And that's what's required in all branches of medicine, in legal, in accounts, in government, in society, and everywhere. And we do that. I come back, I repeat. spirituality, morality, and ethics, we will fix this country.
We're heading to wrap up. We've got literally 1 minute. And yes, do we have another question? Oh, okay.
Good evening. My name is Bonkosi Mafuza. I'm also a registrar in psychiatry. Dr. Suleiman, Gift of the Givers is a disaster specialist organization. We currently have a disaster of load shedding. No, I'm joking. I'm not going to go there. Where do you see Gift of the Givers in 50 years' time? The calling came to you when you were in Istanbul, Turkey. At this point, where do you think Gift of the Givers will be in 50 years' time? As the calling came to you, you managed to gather a team around at the moment. Are there any plans in place to ensure that the work of Gift of the Givers will continue? Even though you said you are not Gift of the Givers yourself, but are there things in place to ensure that in 50 years' time, we will still have Gift of the Givers doing the very same thing that is going on now? Thank you.
I didn't know in 1992, there was no plan for 1992 what I was going to do in 2020. The spiritual teacher said you will know. There is no formula. There's no plan, nothing. Did anybody know COVID is going to hit us in 2020? Did anybody know what earthquakes are going to take place? Did we know ESCOM's going to have a problem from 2015 onwards? We didn't know. It's important to understand how to respond to the crisis, because the crisis can change. But in 90%, the response is the same. So you build teams of people who can understand how to think on their feet, how to relate to each other. The same critical question they asked about different religion. If you cannot get along with different religions, the organization will collapse, because you need people of different mindsets still having a common understanding with each other. So that's essential, to build human capital that will respect each other's views, because that's what destroys the society. So there's no plan for that. I'm not even interested in a plan for the next 30 years, because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You know, all I need to know is I got to be ready to respond to tomorrow if something does happen. In the second part of your question, yes, we got teams. In the last 3 missions, or last 4 missions, I stopped leading the teams overseas. People who've traveled with me, I said, now it's your time to lead. The younger generation. I said, I'm getting old. You guys need to go, and you guys need to respond. And when you're on the other side, when something happens, and you got a problem, I died already. So you can't call me. You got to fix the problem yourself. And they've done remarkably well. They've organized themselves, the search and rescue teams, the medical team, the equipment, the project managers on the ground, the finance people, the marketing guys, the social media people. Everybody knows his responsibility. And everybody knows, I will introduce everybody to government departments, to speak to Indeco, to the media, to the corporates. I got corporate managers. I don't even speak to government corporates anymore. I got people who do that all the time. So a lot of things that I used to do, I just don't do anymore. I specialize time in setting up new projects and implementing them. And the teams come with me, I travel with them, I'm on the ground, they learn from us. So I'm on the ground all the time. I don't sit in an office, I don't work in an office. I work in the field. And that's how my teams train with me. So yes, in 30 years' time, God willing, Gift of the Givers will be here, and I don't know how big it will be then. And just a correction, we've delivered in 29 years, 3.8 billion rand of aid to 44 countries. And we think 5 billion is not very far away, the rate at which things are going.
Final question. Yes, you've said Gift of the Givers is not your organization. Yes, you've said it's a spiritual calling. Yes, you've said you didn't know, and you still don't know. And I think that's one of the principles of spirituality, that you live for now. But are you proud when you look at the work that you have done? When people come to you, and even though you don't expect it, and even though you don't demand it, and even though you don't request it, and they say thank you, when you know that were it not for your intervention, whether locally or globally, people would have died. Do you ever stop there and stand and feel proud of what you've done?
The word proud is not the word I would use.
Mm-hmm.
I would use the word that my soul feels contented.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel very happy. And I reflect on it all the time, is how many lives we have saved. We being given the permission to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because all teaching tells us, he who saves one life has saved the whole of mankind. And I tell my teams, I don't know how many mankind we've saved if we follow that principle. So yes, I do feel extremely happy.
Mm-hmm.
I feel content. I feel grateful, and it drives me further to say, you know what, I'm not on the other side, and I have to carry on doing this to help as many people. As Eda Zizi said, thank you. You know, we didn't expect to thank you, but she said it. And people do say it because it's human nature. They want to say that, and you can't ignore that. But yes, I feel very, very happy. And I'm especially pleased with my teams, both the international ones that go out and the local teams who give their soul and their heart and their being Monday to Sunday. I close on 15 December. Tell them you're going home for the next 3 weeks, and 4 hours later I'll tell them I want you guys back at work. And they'll all come back smiling, happy, because they want to be back in the field. So yes, it's a collective effort, it's prayer, it's the support of the country, the people who get up to pray for you. It's not always about money. It's people giving you support and prayer and say, we thought of it early hours of the morning, we with you. So it's a collective effort, and it's the support of the entire country. It's government, it's corporates, it's the public, it's the media, it's universities, academic institutions, all of you here. So it's all part of the same system that make it work and make us progress. So yes, I'm extremely happy.
In your words, you're extremely happy, and South Africa and UKZN is proud of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nongcebo. It was really amazing, and thanks, Dr. Imtiaz. I'm trying to sit close to him. I hope it's going to be contagious. I can't get very close, yeah. So, colleagues, thank you so much for your time this evening, the amazing questions, Prof. Nama, for making your time to be here with us, our caterers. I want to thank also Ulihle. Ulihle has been running up and down, trying to organize everything. And of course, Wendy. Where is Wendy? Sitting right there. I've been working with this on this with Wendy from last year. And because of COVID, we had to delay all of this. But Wendy, you've been really amazing. And I want to also thank Mary Ann and Suvira, they're not here. Nongcebo, of course, you've been an amazing interviewer. That was wonderful. And of course, thank my students that are here and the registrars asking amazing questions. I hope one day we will have another gift of givers who's one of you in terms of succession planning. I hope it will happen. And thanks, Dr. Patel. Also, I believe you're also part of the gift of the givers. I'm not surprised that you've been really an instrumental and inspiring head of department to turn things around in neurology in such a short period of time. And thank you for Dr. Imtiaz again for recommending you to come back and join us. And I'm so happy for the support that you have given myself also as the dean. There's nothing I could do without your support. My visions without your support would never be implemented. So Dr. Imtiaz, in fact, before I say this, I have to hand this over to you. This is what the gift that we are giving you for the work that you have done at the university. For South Africa, you have put South Africa on the map. We are so super proud of you. Thank you so much. We are really inspired by your dedication, your spirituality, your hard work, your humility, and your generosity. And we hope one day we'll grow to be like you. I also have this for you, and that's for your wife. Yeah, so that she doesn't complain that you travel too much. So, colleagues, lastly, I spoke to Dr. Suleiman, yes, was it today or yesterday? Was it today? This morning. And as I said, when I phone him, he'll always take my call, or I know he will return my call, and I do the same. So I said to him, I'd like to start a foundation here where we support medical students. We have medical students. I think the University of Natal is one of the medical schools that has a high intake of students from disadvantaged backgrounds, and probably maybe 70% of them. And again, with COVID, those discrepancies came quite glaring and obvious. And when I was chatting to the dean of UCT, Professor Green Thompson, at that time asking, how many of your students don't have computers? I said, well, about 30%. And it was the other way around here. 70% of our students didn't have laptops. That would have enabled them to study from home. So again, all these discrepancies became more evident during COVID. So I also gathered that the 30% at UCT, they got donations from their alumni. Of course, we know that our institution has always been one of the, underprivileged institutions, but we are very proud of the doctors that we have produced there. They're the best of the best, And I then felt that, again, at UKZN, we don't have that notion of plowing back in so many ways in terms of donations, contributing to, as alumni. And this is something that I'd like us to start and implement and plant a seed so that going forward, the next generations know that when I'm a doctor one day, I need to think back about my medical school and see how I can help. And you'll find that most universities rely on their alumni for the things that they do. So I think the rest is going to be history, because what we intend to do now, we looked at the debt that the medical students have incurred, particularly the final years, because they'll be going into internship next year. And when I was speaking to Paseka this morning in quiz, it was quite helpful. Give me the data, give me the information, how many students are owing this, this, and that. And the figure we got was about the final year students, 6th year, we've got about 231, right? And of that 231, I think about 96 or so, they still owe a lot of money. And so the total amount that these students owe is about 7 million. Those are the final medical year students. I did have conversations also with the MSRC group and the president, and said, you know what, every beginning of the year we have challenges here where students go on boycott because some students cannot register because of funding, which is a reality. How can we be proactive and prevent this? We need to start something where we get our own alumni and colleagues to contribute. Even those students, for that matter, who come from rich families, nothing stops them from contributing, because there's an example. You give, you get, you give, you don't expect anything in return, because we all come from different families and different backgrounds and different social strata. So there are two things here. We are looking at ensuring that the medical students who qualify 6th year, when they finish, even if it's just 50 rands a month that you're going to donate, or 100 rands, can you imagine how much money we'll make? You make a debit order of 100 rands or 200 rands per month, and that goes to the foundation. The infrastructure is there, it's reliable, the funding will be used appropriately, and what we'll also do, we're going to go wild to our alumni and inform them about this foundation that we are starting, so that they can also plow back and contribute to the students' fees. Lo and behold, I spoke to my man here this morning, and he asked me, Ngoza, how much are the students? He wants the figures. How much are the students owing? I'm like, okay, I'll get back to you just now. I'm coming. And fortunately, Paseka and Quiz were just on the ball. And I mentioned 7 million that the students are owing final year. Dr. Imnia's leadership and the foundation today, as of now, they have donated 3 million. I was in tears. I said, you know what, you've made my day. Somehow this morning I was not feeling fine. I don't know whether it flew or something, but I was feeling a bit low. But when he said that, I was ecstatic. And I was going to wear a black dress. You know, sometimes when you're feeling down, I'm like, to hell with that black dress, I'm wearing my pink dress. So Dr. Imnia's, we are so grateful to, it's a pity I can't hug you and kiss you, but I would do that if it was not for COVID. But thank you so much for what you do. Thank you so much for the symbolism, for the inspiration that you have given all of us. And I'm hoping that in years to come, there'll be many more Dr. Imnia's who are going to follow suit after your path. And colleagues, we now have a foundation. We want to get a name for it. We've got 3 million already. And please spread the word. And going forward, we want to get back to you and see if we can establish this foundation and make sure that the students who come from disadvantaged backgrounds can go to their medical school without any challenges. There's mental health, there's a whole lot of issues. So once more, thank you so much, and thank you so much for staying until late. I know we started late, but it was really worth it. Thank you to our audiovisual people and the caterer. And please, there's still lots of food there, serve yourselves. We will announce our next function where we have another of our living legends will be sitting here and having chats with us. Thank you so much, and good night and good evening. We have some music.